Welcome to today's deep dive, wherever you are listening from and whatever part of your day we are joining right now. It is a genuine privilege to sit down with you and explore something truly remarkable.
It's great to be here with you all. And today our mission is to really understand the cultural and creative powerhouse of Zimbabwe. We're looking at how a deeply ingrained ancient spiritual heritage is currently fueling this massive contemporary art boom.
Which is just fascinating.
It is, and crucially, how that artistic spirit is being deliberately harnessed as a core economic engine for the country's future.
So to uncover how all of this connects, we're pulling from a really fascinating stack of materials today.
We've got some great sources.
We really do. We have a deeply reported Guardian article that explores the contemporary art boom that's just exploding in Harare right now.
Right.
We also have the official 2020 to 2030 government strategy document for the cultural and creative industries, which lays out a 10-pillar economic master plan.
A very detailed master plan.
Yeah, quite detailed. We are also grounding this with some historical notes on the ancient Great Zimbabwe Monument and a comprehensive guide to Zimbabwe's traditional dances.
So a lot of ground to cover.
It is. Okay,
Yeah.
Let's unpack this. Because to understand the modern creative matrix of Zimbabwe, we really have to start at the physical and conceptual bedrock of the nation's identity.
Yeah, we have to start with the Great Zimbabwe Monument. I mean, we are talking about the ruins of a massive ancient city here.
Right.
It reached its peak between the 13th and 14th centuries. It's actually a UNESCO World Heritage Site today.
And the historical weight of it is just profound.
Oh, absolutely. It's so profound that during the 1960s, the revolution against colonial rule, the progressive forces actually adopted the name Zimbabwe as a national symbol.
Wow.
Yeah, and then when independence was attained in 1980, the colonial name Rhodesia was dropped entirely, and the country officially became Zimbabwe.
Which is just a huge testament to the power of that site. And, you know, when you visualize these ruins, you really have to throw out any preconceived notions of, like, simple ancient settlements.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Picture the Great Enclosure. This is a massive, awe-inspiring stone structure, and it was constructed entirely without mortar.
Which is mind-blowing.
It is. The masonry is so precise that these thousands of granite blocks, they just hold themselves together through sheer physics and gravity alone.
It's incredible engineering.
And inside, you have this towering, mysterious conical tower. And perched above all of it is the hill complex. But I was reading through these historical notes, and I was just struck by the sheer scale of the commerce taking place here.
Yeah, this wasn't just some localized, isolated kingdom, not at all.
Right. It's like a prehistoric Silicon Valley of commerce and culture.
Mm-hmm.
It really makes you wonder, how does this ancient global trade network challenge our modern, sometimes narrow assumptions about historical African economies?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it severely challenges those assumptions. Great Zimbabwe was a critical node in a vast transoceanic trade network.
Okay, wait, I want to focus on the logistics of that for a second. How exactly does a 14th century inland African city manage global trade?
It was a highly organized barter and transit system. So they were pulling local agricultural produce, animal skins, and crucially, gold from the interior.
Okay.
And they would move these goods eastward to the Swahili coast, so like modern-day Mozambique and Tanzania.
Wow.
There, they traded with Arab and Swahili merchants whose ships rode the monsoon winds across the Indian Ocean.
Wow, across the ocean.
Yeah, and in return for the gold, they brought back glass beads from India, elaborate textiles, and Chinese blue-on-white porcelain.
Wait, Chinese porcelain?
Yeah, archaeologists have literally dug up Ming Dynasty porcelain deep in the southern African interior.
That is wild.
Yeah.
That completely shatters the traditional mental map of ancient globalization for me.
It really does.
But I'm struggling a bit to reconcile the massive globalized wealth of this era with the deep spirituality that's mentioned in our sources.
How so?
Well, usually when a society engages in like high volume international commerce, you kind of see a dilution of local religion as all these foreign influences pour in.
Right.
But here, the economic expansion seems to have actually reinforced the local spiritual core.
Yeah, that is because at Great Zimbabwe, religion was the operational glue holding the political and economic systems together. The rulers and clan leaders didn't just, tax the trade. They derived their absolute legitimacy from Mwari, the supreme god.
I see.
Great Zimbabwe was the religious epicenter of this entire belief system. And Wari was believed to have direct power over rainmaking, agricultural fertility, and health.
Meaning the economic prosperity wasn't just seen as like good business. It was seen as divine endorsement.
Exactly. If the crops succeeded, if the livestock multiplied, and if the gold trade flourished, it was physical proof that the rulers were in perfect harmony with Wari.
Wow.
The economy and the spirit were just completely indivisible.
Which brings us to the famous soapstone Zimbabwe birds, right?
Yeah.
The ones discovered in the ruins of the hill complex.
Yes, those are crucial.
These are, roughly half-meter tall carvings of birds of prey. And they often have human features, like toes instead of talons.
Yeah, they're really striking.
If you just look at them as artifacts, they are fascinating. But they represent something much more functional, don't they?
They do. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the Zimbabwe bird isn't just an archaeological relic. It's the ultimate mechanism of continuity.
You're absolutely right.
Today, it actually sits on the national flag. But historically, these birds are believed to represent royal ancestors who acted as intercessors between the living and Wari.
Oh, wow.
They weren't just decorative art, they were the spiritual infrastructure of the state. And today, they're a continuous symbol of enterprise that bridges those ancient achievements with modern aspirations.
So that physical communal endurance, it didn't just vanish when the ancient city of Great Zimbabwe was eventually abandoned.
No, not.
The energy didn't just stay buried in the stone architecture. It moved from the walls into the human body. It became this living, breathing archive.
That's a great way to put it.
And you see that exact same survival mechanism when you look at our next source, which breaks down Zimbabwe's traditional dances.
Yeah, absolutely. When we talk about intangible cultural heritage, dance in Zimbabwe is emphatically not just about moving to music for entertainment. It is a fundamental social utility. There are about 12 prominent traditional dances, and they serve highly specific religious, social, and ceremonial purposes.
Like what kind of purposes?
Well, they're the mechanisms used to teach communal values, to recite complex histories, manage funeral proceedings, and, crucially, maintain that connection with the ancestors.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because if you're picturing like a traditional Western performance where you buy a ticket, sit in the dark room, and passively watch dancers on a stage, you have to throw that mental model completely out the window.
Oh, yeah, entirely.
According to our guide, the barrier between performer and spectator just does not exist in these traditional settings.
Yeah.
Take the Jeruzalem dance, for example.
Also known as Mbende, right?
Right, practiced by the Zulu Shona people. The choreography is intense. Mbende actually translates to mole, as in the burrowing animal.
Yeah, originally it was an exclusive fertility and marriage dance.
And the men, they crouch low, jerk their arms, and just vigorously kick the dirt to mimic a mole digging. And it's all driven by a singular master drummer, woodblock clappers, and whistling.
The physical toll of that movement is immense, and the rhythm is the absolute core of the experience.
Yeah.
Zimbabwean dances, much like the broader spectrum of African music, they really rely on the mechanics of polyrhythm.
Wait, for those of us who aren't ethnomusicologists, what exactly makes a rhythm poly in practice? Like, how does that actually affect the people dancing?
So polyrhythm is the simultaneous use of two or more conflicting rhythms.
Okay.
Imagine one drum playing a steady 3-beat pulse, while another instrument simultaneously plays a 4-beat pulse.
Oh, that sounds complicated.
It is. Your brain is forced to process competing time signatures at the exact same time. It creates this deeply complex, interlocking wall of sound that literally physically drives the dancers.
Wow.
It is incredibly difficult to play, but when executed correctly, it induces almost a trance-like state that sustains the performers.
And you see that vividly in the Mbira dance. The guide notes this is a highly religious dance performed at the Bira ceremony.
Yes.
It's specifically engineered to invite ancestral spirits into the community. They use the Bira instrument, which is a wooden board with staggered metal tines that you pluck with your thumbs.
It has a very distinct, beautiful sound.
It does. And the dance itself features these, graceful floating pauses that suddenly explode into high-energy jump bursts.
Then you have the Ndebele dances, which serve entirely different social utilities.
Like the Muchangoyo, right.
Exactly. The Muchangoyo is a dramatic, stamping warrior dance performed with sticks and shields.
And that isn't just for show. The choreography of the Muchangoyo involves intense, synchronized ground stamping. I mean, I have to imagine that instills a very real muscle memory and tactical coordination for a group of warriors.
Oh, for sure.
It's almost like a military drill disguised as art.
It reinforces physical unity and endurance, and that endurance is key because these communal dances can sometimes last for up to 12 hours straight.
12 hours. My modern attention span can barely handle a 2-hour movie.
I know, right? It's incredible.
But this leads me to a theory. When a community engages in a 12-hour physically grueling dance where everyone is participating, it ceases to be just art. It becomes a shared language.
Yes, absolutely.
Is this intense, collective physical exertion the actual secret to how these traditions survive? Colonialism, economic shifts, and modernization.
What's fascinating here is that you've identified the exact mechanism of cultural resilience.
Oh, really?
Yeah. When everyone is a participant, the culture isn't being stored in like a fragile book or a vulnerable museum somewhere.
That makes sense.
It is being stored in the muscle memory of the entire population. When a dance lasts for 12 hours, the sheer collective endurance binds people together through shared hardship and shared joy.
Wow.
It is literally an archive of their history, lived out in real time through the body.
So you have this ingrained communal drive to create, to endure, and to make sense of the world through expression.
Right.
And that drive doesn't stay confined to rural ceremonies or the past. It floods right into the modern urban environment. Which brings us to the Guardian article detailing the massive contemporary art boom in the capital city, Harare.
Yeah, the article outlines a truly explosive surge in contemporary visual art.
It's amazing.
To set the chronological context, this boom really caught the attention of major international art collectors and global institutions around the political transitions of 2017.
Okay.
Suddenly, the global art market turned its eyes to Harare, and they discovered what the article describes as just a staggering concentration of raw talent.
Yeah, we have Valerie Kabov, who runs the first floor gallery in Harare, and she calls this boom unequivocal.
Unequivocal, that's a strong word.
It is. She points to a historically strong tradition of education in the country, combined with the reality of living in an interesting matrix of deep economic and social challenges.
Right.
You have artists like Helen Teed, Gresham Tapwanyad, and Amanda Mushat producing world-class canvases, but the logistical reality of their work is brutal.
It's incredibly difficult.
They lack a domestic art market, they lack formal exhibition spaces, and they often struggle just to acquire basic supplies like quality paint or canvas.
Yet, paradoxically, that logistical struggle is the very mechanism that forces the authenticity of the work.
How do you mean?
Well, Kados makes a brilliant point. Artists in Zimbabwe cannot afford to make work that isn't vital because there is nothing in their daily lives that is not vital. When you are struggling to secure basic resources, there is zero room for pretension or, as she calls it, navel-gazing.
I see this described often as a pressure cooker, but honestly, I think a better metaphor is a cultural crucible.
A crucible, I like that.
Yeah, extreme economic constraints actually strip away pretension. Extreme friction burns away all the fluff, the trend chasing, the superficiality. What is left in that crucible is only the most urgent, high-density artistic expression.
Exactly. The art becomes a mechanism for survival and sense-making.
Yep.
Gresham Tapwanyad explains this perfectly in the article. He says that living through the everyday absurdity of the economic challenges defies conventional language.
Right. Words aren't enough.
For him, painting is a way of logically working through concepts and frustrations that you literally cannot think through logically. The canvas absorbs the chaos.
And you see that translation of chaos with the younger artists too, like Amanda Mushate. She's navigating a different kind of friction.
Yes, she is.
She faces a deep disconnect with her peers, who are entirely consumed by social media and conventional status symbols.
Right, the digital age.
She actually painted a piece titled WhatsApp Gold, specifically to process her generation's digital obsession against the backdrop of their physical reality. The art isn't an escape. It is an immediate, visceral confrontation with the world they are navigating.
But this raises an important question, and it points to a tragic paradox at the heart of this boom.
What's that?
The art is phenomenal, the world is noticing. But because there is no robust local market of art collectors with the disposable income to purchase these pieces,
It all goes away.
exactly. All of this brilliant, culturally defining work is being bought up by international collectors in Europe and the Americas, and it is immediately shipped overseas.
It's heartbreaking. Helen Teed voices a profound fear regarding this exact dynamic, doesn't she?
She does. She points out that the best work being produced today, the visual record of this entire era of Zimbabwean history, is leaving the country.
Wow.
She worries that in 50 years, when Zimbabwe stabilizes and builds a grand contemporary art museum, They will have to go to London or New York and pay exorbitant prices to buy back their own cultural history.
It is a massive intellectual property drain. It's like watching the gold leave Great Zimbabwe, but getting no porcelain or glass beads in return.
It's a great analogy.
The value just vanishes. Which brings us to the government's highly structured attempt to stop the bleeding. The National Cultural and Creative Industries Strategy for 2020 to 2030.
Right. The government recognized that they cannot allow this creative engine to run wild without structural support, or else all the resultant wealth will permanently leave the country.
Makes sense.
The official strategy document explicitly aims to turn culture into capital. The overarching goal is to utilize the cultural and creative industries, the CCIs, to help propel Zimbabwe into an upper-middle income society by 2030.
And the data actually proves this isn't just optimistic bureaucracy.
Not at all.
The document highlights that in 2018, the creative industries already accounted for 6.69% of the national GDP. That is a massive economic footprint for a sector that has been largely left to its own devices.
It is staggering when you consider that this sector has historically been incredibly fragmented, severely underfunded, and plagued by rampant piracy.
Right.
To fix this, the strategy lays out 10 highly specific pillars designed to transform this fragmented landscape into a unified powerhouse brand.
Let's look at the mechanics of this plan. They have pillars dedicated to cultural markets, intellectual property, funding and financing, cultural infrastructure, and safeguarding cultural heritage.
It's very comprehensive.
It is. They want to create digital libraries, crack down on piracy, and enforce copyright laws so musicians and artists actually receive their royalties.
Which is huge for the artists.
But so, what does this all mean? I have to push back on this approach just a little bit.
Go ahead.
When I read a government document filled with 10 pillars and strategic timelines and interministerial task forces, it feels incredibly rigid.
It sounds like paperwork.
Exactly. There seems to be a massive inherent friction between the grassroots, chaotic, crucible-forged creativity of Harare and the top-down government bureaucracy. Can a government actually systemize or legislate a creative boom?
That is the critical tension at the heart of any cultural policy. But if you look closely at the mechanics of the strategy, it isn't attempting to legislate creativity itself.
Okay.
You cannot write a bureaucratic policy that forces Amanda Mushate to paint a masterpiece or forces a community to dance the mbembe with more passion.
Right. You can't mandate art.
Exactly. What the government is attempting to build is the scaffolding around those artists.
Explain how that scaffolding works in practice.
Think about the daily friction an artist faces. If an artist spends half her week trying to source affordable materials or fighting a vendor who pirated her digital designs and sold them on the street, she isn't painting.
Right. Her creative energy is drained by logistics.
Yes. The strategy proposes a one-stop shop within the ministry to cut through regulatory red tape. By strictly enforcing intellectual property rights and building accessible cultural infrastructure, the government aims to remove those logistical obstacles.
I see.
The goal of the scaffolding is to create a secure environment where the artist's only job is to create.
And crucially, to ensure that once they do create, the economic benefit of that intellectual property stays within the community.
Exactly.
It's about designing a system where the sale of a painting feeds back into the local GDP rather than just enriching a gallery overseas. Well, when you look at it that way, it is essentially taking the ancient, successful model of Great Zimbabwe, where culture, trade, and spirituality were intrinsically linked to the wealth of the nation, and reverse engineering it for the 21st century digital and artistic landscape.
It's a profound recognition that the arts are not just a decorative luxury, to be enjoyed after the real economy is fixed.
Right.
The arts are the vital economic engine, and they are the very soul of the society. The strategy actively links the safeguarding of intangible heritage, like the polyrhythms of those 12 traditional dances, with modern commercialization.
It's a holistic attempt to ensure that the identity of the nation is both preserved in the bodies of its people and profitable for the communities that hold it.
It really is.
Which brings this entire journey right back to you listening to us right now. Whether you are analyzing this to understand emerging global markets, prepping for a strategy meeting, or just try to satisfy an intense curiosity about human resilience, the lesson from Zimbabwe challenges our fundamental assumptions.
It absolutely does.
In many modern societies, we tend to separate our work from our culture. We put the serious economy in one box, and we put art and dance in a totally separate box, reserved for the weekend.
Right.
But Zimbabwe proves that culture is the economy. The way a society moves together in dance, the way it paints its economic frustrations onto canvas, the way it honors the architecture of its ancestors, that is the raw material of its future wealth.
It is the ultimate renewable resource. As long as there is community, there will be culture. And as long as that culture is protected and valued, there is an infinite potential for innovation and growth.
So we want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over. Take a look at your own life, your own city, your own routines.
Yeah, think about your daily life.
If someone were to excavate your society in 800 years, if they dug through your digital archives, your local physical gatherings, the specific ways you and your peers process your daily struggles, what would be the Zimbabwe bird of your era?
That's a great question.
What is the WhatsApp gold that future archaeologists will uncover that truly defines who you were, what you valued, and how you survived?
It is a question that forces us to look closely at what we are leaving behind. Does the culture we produce today accurately reflect the true spirit and resilience of our communities?
It's something to think about as you navigate the rest of your day. We want to thank you so deeply and personally for spending your time with us on this deep dive.
It's been wonderful.
It is an absolute joy to learn alongside you, to explore the beauty and complexity of human expression, and to share these stories simply for the love of understanding each other better. Take care of yourselves, keep that intense curiosity alive, and remember that the engine of culture is always running. We'll be right here waiting to explore the next big idea with you. Goodbye for now.